meteorologist Chase Jones.
Well, it was a beautiful Friday, a beautiful end to January, pretty busy month. And then as we look off towards the west, getting a good shot of Jupiter and Venus as they go below the horizon. That alignment's still going to be going on for a couple more weeks, but we're watching those winds die down. And as we start to see things quiet down, we're sort of taking a closer look at this dry weather to see the kind of drought-like impacts we're going to see from it. Temperatures over the last 24 hours going from those upper 30s all the way up into those lower 70s. And watch how quickly we are cooling off underneath these clear skies all the way down into those lower 40s. And we're going to drop about 10 more degrees into those lower 30s before we rally right back up into those 70s for tomorrow. And we're still on the warm-up 43 in San Angelo. Everybody else in a good combination of those lower 50s, those upper 40s, those lower 40s, those upper 30s. We're all over the place right now. 52 in Sterling City, 42 down there in Junction, 10 degrees across the entire Concho Valley, unless you want to count that 39, but it's not in the direction that we want. But you can see where those low elevations are again, while we still see some of these cooler temperatures slide their way in. But the sooner you get down to 30 degrees, the better off you're going to be, because that's where we're all going to level out. And now the further south you go in sort of latitude, you're going to see some of those higher humidity values, while you go up towards the north where you start to see some of those drier values. But the humidity points, or at least the dew points, are down there in those teens all the way up into those 30s. So it's going to be a pretty dry morning as we make our way into the first day of February, the first week right around the corner. We're tracking the dry air really as it hovers around sort of West Texas and the Four Corners, but the instability that's going to make its way in from the Gulf Coast probably won't make its way up into the Concho Valley. That's because we're tracking that high pressure. Now, getting a better look at it on the upper level pattern, so it's going to hover there off the west coast of Mexico, and then again somewhere around Florida. That's going to keep majority of this activity to the northern part of the nation, but we have our eye on this cutoff low. Again, you're seeing larger waves across the upper level pattern, and that's going to make for a pretty dynamic cool down for the first week of February. When we look at the water vapor imagery, we're tracking this big pocket of dry air, and then we have our eye on this sort of giant winter storm, and we're going to see it held off by all this dry air down here in the Concho Valley. But we're going to get a better idea of just how much of an impact that's going to make on our water source. So when we look at the severe weather outlook right now sliding off towards the east, but we take you down to the surface, because as we watch the storm finally push off towards the east coast, we're keeping our eye on this monster winter storm again, seeing all those winter weather advisories, cold weather alerts spanning all the way from the west coast up into the Wyoming Rocky Mountains all the way down to the south. But look at the pocket of high pressure that's just hovering around us right now. Take you down into the future cast, because as we look at nothing happening over the Concho Valley, if not the entire state of Texas, we're just watching that fire hose pummel the west coast, keeping our eye on Oregon, Idaho, Wyoming, and Utah. They're looking at 100 inches of snow now. One of their big concerns is landslides, and that's what we're going to keep our eye on all weekend, because we know down here just a whole lot of sports, and it's going to be beautiful weather for it. So tonight all the way back down into those 30s, then tomorrow right back up into those 70s. Please get out there this weekend and enjoy it. It is the end of January, the beginning of February. By Groundhog's Day, we're up there in those 80s, and then as we make our way sort of towards the beginning of that week, we're going to begin that cool down. Remember that dynamic upper level pattern back and forth between those 80s and those 70s. As we make our way around towards that weekend, we're going to be down there in those 60s and right back up into those 70s, while those overnight lows follow the exact same pattern, going from those 40s to those 50s to those 60s, then right back down into those 40s. Stay tuned. We'll have more of the break. You're watching KSAN News at 10.